This will be for the con exercise, points inside, outside, on a circle. So please write this down. This is the circle equation. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay, h comma k are the x and y coordinates for the center of the circle, and r is the radius of the circle. So r is basically the length of the radius. All right, so there's going to be basically 3 steps for these problems. I'll write the 3rd step in a minute. But you want to find the original r squared. Okay, they're going to give you r, the radius, in the problem. And then you want to plug in the center, which is h comma k, and the new point, x comma y, into the circle equation to get the new r squared. Okay, so I just gave you the circle equation previously. So if the new r squared is greater than the original r squared, the point's going to be outside the circle. If the new r squared is less than the original r squared, the point's going to be inside the circle. And if the new r squared equals the original r squared, the point is going to be on the circle. Okay, so a circle is centered at point O, which is 0, 0, and has radius of radical 53. Where does the point V, which is -3, -7, lie? All right, so the center of the circle, we said, is h comma k. And this is the radius r, radical 53. And a point that's on the circle, let's say that it's a new circle, that's going to be x and y. All right. So the first step is to find r squared. If r is radical 53, if you just square both sides here, that's just going to be radical 53. Let me write this a little bigger here. Radical 53 equals r. And squaring both sides, I'm going to square this whole thing and square the r. Okay, if you square something that's under the square root, just remove the square root. So 53 equals r squared. All right, so we're going to keep that in mind. And basically, this is the original. All right, I'll call it r sub o for original. And now we'll just do the circle equation. Okay, we said that was x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay, now it's not the original. We're finding the new r squared. All right, so I'll just write a little new right there. All right, so just plug in the points. So for x, we have -3. And then that's minus h, which is 0. And that's squared. And then for y, we have -7. And for k, we have 0, so it's -0. And that's squared. And that's going to equal the new r squared. All right. So -3 minus 0 is just -3. -7 minus 0 is just -7. And that's squared, and so is the -3. Okay, -3 times -3 is 9. -7 times -7 is positive 49. And 9 plus 49 equals 58. Okay, and that's the new r squared. So we said in the beginning, if the new r squared, we can see 58 is greater than 53. Right? 58 is greater than 53. And we said in the beginning, if the new r squared is greater than the original, then it's going to be outside the circle. Okay, so the main thing is just follow the steps. You find r squared. You use the circle equation to plug in the points for the center and the point that's on a new circle, basically. And if it's greater than, it's going to be outside the circle. So that is answer C. Okay, a circle is centered at 0, 0. The point -6 radical 37 is on the circle. Where does the point 8, 3 lie? Okay, the first step is to find r squared. All right, so we're going to use our circle equation. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay, remember the coordinates for the center are h, k. And a point that's on the circle, that's just x, y. All right, so we're going to plug these in first. All right, we're just looking at this part up here first to get r squared. So x is -6 minus h, which is 0. And that whole thing is squared. And then we have y, which is radical 37, minus k, which is 0. And that's squared. And that equals r squared. Okay, -6 minus 0 is just -6. And it's still squared. Radical 37 minus 0 is just radical 37, and that's squared. -6 times -6 is 36, plus radical 37 squared, you just remove the square root, and 36 plus 37 is going to be 73, and that equals r squared. Okay, so this is the original. (73) equals the original r squared. All right, and now we're going to use this to find the new r squared. Okay, so we're just going to do the same thing again with the new point. Okay, so the coordinates for this new point, again, the coordinates are just going to be x, y. All right, so we start with our circle equation. The x coordinate is 8 minus h, which is 0, and that's squared. Next up is y, which is 3, minus k, which is 0, and that's squared, and that's going to be our new r squared. 8 minus 0 is 8, and it's squared. 3 minus 0 is 3, and that's squared. 8 times 8 is 64. 3 times 3 is 9, and 64 plus 9 is 73. And that equals the new r squared. Okay, so we found the original r squared was 73, and the new one is also 73. So we said if the original r squared equals the new r squared, the point is going to be on the circle. All right, one more. Circle is centered at 4, 0, has a radius of 10. Where does the point -2, 8 lie? Okay, so the radius equals 10. And if you square both sides of this, okay, that's going to be 10 squared equals r squared. And 10 times 10 is just 100. So r squared is 100. That's going to be the original r squared. All right. And we need our circle equation to find the new r squared. We're going to do x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay, the center is 4, 0. That's going to be h, k. And the new point is going to be x, y. All right, so we're just going to plug in those in this equation and get the new r squared. And compare it with the original. X is -2 minus h, which is 4, and that gets squared. Y is +8 minus k, which is 0, and that's squared. That's going to be the new r squared. -2 minus 4 is -6, and that's still squared. 8 minus 0 is +8, and that's still squared. -6 times -6 is 36. 8 times 8 is 64. 36 plus 64 equals 100. And that's going to be the new r squared. Okay, so 100 equals 100. So the original r squared equals the new r squared. So that means the point is on the circle. Answer B.